This is part 1 of 3 of my IG live this week, and we're going to talk about tantrums. The topic of the IG live that I'm having is welcome the tantrums, because my goal is to eventually help you to tolerate the tantrums. Okay, so welcome to those who have joined me. We are going to talk about what are tantrums, why is it that we want to stop the tantrums, as well as one way to help you navigate these tantrums. Okay, so there will be a little trick that I want to share with you, and we will reveal it shortly, so stay tuned to the end. And remember, my objective here is for you, the next time when your child throws a tantrum, you are able to welcome it with open arms. Okay, so I'm going to get you to first type inside the chat box, why did your child throw a tantrum? Can you share with me the most recent incident, or maybe when did it happen? Did it happen when you're getting your kids to brush their teeth, or was it during going to school? So can you type it in the chat box here to let me know what is the last time, or when is the last time your child threw a tantrum, and why did it happen? Was it because of a sibling? Could it be because they don't want to eat certain food that you have prepared for dinner, or they didn't want you to leave them at bedtime? So I'm curious to find out. Just feel free to type it in. For those who have just joined us, we are going to help you welcome tantrums. Okay, and this will be a 3-part series. Today we'll do the first part. Tomorrow we'll skip one day, we'll go on Thursday. Okay, now let me see. Be amazing said going to school for a drop-off and your child threw a tantrum. Thank you. Sing said yesterday fighting for toys, refusing to sleep, mostly when I say no to his request, and bedtime. B234 said doesn't want to brush his teeth and change into pajamas. Tasmania said siblings rivalry. Dr. Noor said this morning asking them to bathe, but they scream and didn't want to. Lynette said just today did not want to nap on the cot when they have been napping for all the other days, right? Okay, my 3 little kids say doesn't want to do schoolwork. Kimberly said taking away her things when she threw them on the floor. Refusing to nap, refusing to go to bed, not wanting to stop playing, doesn't want to brush his teeth. Now, I believe that if I have a like button here for you guys to like the comments that you completely resonate with and happen in your household, I'm sure all of you can resonate with, your kids not wanting to brush their teeth, doesn't want to sleep early, doesn't want to dress, doesn't want to sleep in the cot, doesn't want to do their school homework. All right, unable to find his things, they throw a tantrum. Yes, refusing to hear instructions and then throw a tantrum. Doesn't want to get out of the shower. You see, we have some parents, some kids who doesn't want to get in, and some doesn't want to get out, and some they don't want to get in and then they don't want to get out. Okay, so I want to assure you that all these things that you observe in your children, if you notice that someone has mentioned it, it means that actually you are really not alone. Okay, we go through this every day as parents. So if you ever feel like, is there something wrong with my child? No. Okay, it is developmental for them to throw tantrums, which is why I'm going to pose you the next question. What are tantrums? What are tantrums? Can you share with me your understanding of tantrums? Okay, I continue reading your comments about how when they don't get the things that they want, they cannot take no for an answer. So all these events or things that you have mentioned, right? Why did it lead to your kids throwing a tantrum? What is the underlying reason that caused them to have tantrums? Okay, now this could be a little deep question, but if you're not sure, you can go and Google what are tantrums. Thank you, Cyrus Jia. She said emotional outbursts. All right. When they are upset, yeah. So they're upset. Thank you. Upset is a feeling, right? It's an emotion. Emotional dysregulation stemming from not getting their way. All right. So emotions again, screaming and shouting to get attention. So I want to ask you slightly to get you to think deeper. Why are they screaming and shouting? Screaming and shouting is the behavior. Why are your kids screaming and shouting? Okay, Liana said, doesn't know how to regulate emotions. Okay, good that you mentioned the word emotions. Lacking impulse control. Yes, they want to get their way. But why is it they want to get their way? All right, expressing their emotions, emotionally overwhelmed, emotions that cannot be expressed. Okay, I've got a very clear idea. I think many of you are on the same page. Tantrums, if you Google it, it says emotional outbursts. Now, we are humans. You are human, your kids are human, and we all have emotions. There is nothing wrong with our kids feeling angry that they are not allowed to stay longer before they go to bed. There's nothing wrong with the kids feeling upset that they're going to say goodbye to their parents at school drop-off. There's also nothing wrong with your child feeling anxious about sleeping in a cot or feeling frustrated with doing their school homework. So can you imagine, like all of us, we all have this ability to feel emotions. So this is your child's ability to feel emotions, okay? For us adults, it's the same level, all right? The problem is that for our children, this is their ability to regulate the emotions. Can you see a gap? This is the gap that we are going to feel. The reason why your kids are not able to communicate with you using words because of this gap here, and they lack the skills to be able to tell you how they feel. You know, for us, sometimes we're frustrated, we're angry with our boss or our colleagues. We'll WhatsApp our partners or WhatsApp our friends, or we'll just call a good friend and just lash it out. We are expressing ourselves. We are expressing ourselves appropriately because we have the skills to manage our emotions, although I will say some adults don't really have the skills to do that. Yeah, so if we have the skills, we can manage it, then we don't need to throw the tantrums. But for our children, there is this gap here, and it's unrealistic of us to expect our children at 2, 3, or even 4 years old to be able to level the ability as well as the emotions that they're experiencing. They are not able to regulate their emotions. So I want you to have a clear understanding of what tantrums are and why is it your kids are throwing them, because they lack the skills. Now, lacking the skills also leading to the fact that there are unmet needs. So for example, they feel out of control. They're not able to decide what they want. They feel like eating chocolate and their parents say no. They feel like, playing with this toy, the parents say no, it's dangerous. They're curious about the switches. They will go and press it, but their parents say no. So can you see that if the child, or rather any human who doesn't have autonomy, will feel like this need is unmet and will do whatever it takes to fill up that need. That's why if you have been watching my lives and following my IG, I talk about giving your kids control so that they feel that there's this sense of agency. And it is actually a basic needs. All humans are hardwired to have control. Just like you want to have control over your child, and you don't want your kids to throw a tantrum just because you said no. So when two people come together and both want to be in control and both are not giving way, what do we get? A power struggle. And it makes it so hard. Now, but the thing is, you are the adult, so I'm expecting you to give way, not your kid, which is again something very hard to do. Okay, so we were talking about what are tantrums, that tantrums are emotional outbursts, and that your kids don't have the skill to be able to regulate. So until we equip our kids with the skill, then they are able to communicate with words. Now, some of you might be thinking, but my kids are only 2 years old. How do I expect my child to be able to communicate with me? It is hard. So the younger your kids, the lower your expectations should be. So if your 2-year-old is having a hard time and not able to express himself, to feel seen and heard, you are going to expect that the child will take a while. But it doesn't mean you are not going to teach the child how to feel seen and heard. And one way you can do that is then to label the emotions, or even like pointing out certain feelings of from a feelings chart, cards, or colors, or getting them to draw out how they feel. Basically, we want our kids to be able to express themselves so that we can level up their ability to regulate. But the thing is, for many of us, right, I want to go a bit deeper now. We cannot tolerate the tantrums. When our kids start crying, it's like they turn on a switch in us and we feel like, oh, we got to stop it. We want to stop the tantrum. because we feel uncomfortable with the tantrum. And why is that so? I'm sure for some of you, you are fully comfortable, right? I've ever done a webinar recently for a corporate company, and I asked them, how comfortable are you with tantrums? And they said they're very comfortable. So I'm sure some of you are actually okay with it. But for the rest of us, many of us, when we were younger, we were never taught how to deal with cries. We often told, stop crying, no crying. I'm going to count to 3, you're going to stop crying, right? And as a result, we cannot take the cries, and that is the way we were brought up. So that becomes our template of parenting. And now when we are going to parent our own kids, we just use the template that we were given. But is that the right way to help our kids? You see, now there are many cases of, adults, children who are not able to regulate themselves. It leads to many mental health issues. And if we are always going to get our kids to stop crying, okay, get them to, keep it inside them, suppress it, these feelings, these emotions, they become their inner voice. They internalize it. They think that, crying is wrong. When I cry, my parents don't love me. My parents only love me when I'm happy. I'm not allowed to be disappointed. So they start to keep everything inside themselves. And now that, we have this knowledge, we are doing our kids a disservice by not teaching them how to express their emotions. So I would say a big part of parenting is to teach our kids about emotions and to manage your own emotions, okay? So today's strategy of the day, okay, there are 3 parts, so come back again tomorrow for the second and Thursday for the third. Today's strategy, I want you to try it, okay? We are going to tell our brains that the tantrums are not threats. Now, why is it that we react when our kids start crying? We say, stop crying. Or, some of us might even spank our children or punish them and say, if you are going to cry, I'm going to take away your iPad. Or if you're not going to do your homework, you will have no TV. Why are we so reactive? Why do we want to threaten, shame, and punish our children? Because it has become our instinct to do it. It is our knee-jerk reaction. That when we see that our kids are crying, going to meltdown, and they are, kicking, hitting, hurting their siblings, snatching toys, these behaviors are perceived as threats to our body, to your bodies, which also mean that when you see that happen, your body will immediately activate your survival response and see that threat as a situation that you got to stop. You start to yell, you start to punish, and you start to scream, which means at that moment, your bloodstream is filled with cortisol, which is our stress hormone, and it makes you very reactive. This is the reason why you are behaving this way. Okay, it is biological. It's how we work, because our body needs to have a very good threat response system in case of emergency, because there's a certain part of our brain, we call it the amygdala, that helps us to survive. So that's why, when you see, maybe you are driving and you see a cat running across, you immediately press the stop button. Press stop button. Step on the brake, right? Because, it's just, you don't need to think about it. You just stop. Or if you're holding your child's hand and there's a cyclist, immediately you grab your child away. Do you need to start thinking, at what speed the the cyclist is at, and where am I going to carry my child? You don't. You just instinctively do it. So this becomes... this is to help us, right? But as a result of our perceived threat, our bodies think that tantrums are dangerous. So this is the most important part. If you have stayed all the way here, we want to trick our brain. Okay, this is your strategy. Sleep on it tonight. Tomorrow, you want to trick your brain. You want to tell your brain that, hey, it's not an emergency. My kids, that saying no to going to school, is not an emergency. My kids refusing to do his school homework is not an emergency. My kids refusing to pack his bag, brush his teeth, go to bed is not an emergency. You are going to tell your brain that, hey, you don't have to keep me, so activated. Hey, you don't have to bring me to a state of emergency. All right. When we can do that, And if you do that often enough, you are essentially rewiring your brain to how you respond to tantrums, and that is how you break that generation cycle. Okay, so the trick is this: we are going to press the pause button. If there's only one thing you're going to remember from today's session, is to press the pause button. When you see that your kids are not eating their dinner, press the pause button, stop. If you see your kids, they don't want to turn off the TV, press the pause button, stop. If you see that your kids, they don't want to go to bed, they cling on to you, asking you for more and more storybooks, stop. Okay, for me, what I do, you might be asking, so I stop and what do I do? Just stay there and do nothing? Okay, so I'm going to go on to the next part, which is after you stop, you press the pause button. Okay, you can do a few things and you can decide whichever works best for you. Some parents that I've taught, they tell me breathing really, really helps them a lot. So when they stop, they will take a deep breath. When your out breath is slower than your in breath, is that what you call it, right? You are tricking your brain to tell the brain that this is not an emergency, so you are slowing down. When you breathe, oxygen goes to your brain. You are activating the parasympathetic nervous system that helps you to calm down. Okay, so breathing is one. The other thing that you can do for some of the parents I've taught, right, and what I do also, is to chant a mantra to myself. This might sound very cliche. Yeah, I've heard about chanting a mantra, but it doesn't seem to work. Now, so it really depends on your personality. Sometimes you might need a few more practices for your brain to then really recognize what's happening. So one of my favorite mantra, actually I've already mentioned it to you, is not an emergency. It is not an emergency. Recently, I've been telling myself my relationship with my kids are more important. So my relationship with my kids are more important than the books that they throw all over the living room. My relationship with them is more important than the toys that they don't keep. My relationship with them is more important than the bags that they didn't pack or the uniforms they didn't bring out to prepare for school. My relationship with my kids are more important. So because when you press the pause button and you tell your brain that, hey, it's not emergency, there's something more important, I can manage this, then you won't have to go into the fight, the flight, probably go into the fight mode to scream at your kids. So let me just summarize. We talked about how it is our body's natural response system to yell or shout at our kids, to punish, to threaten, because our bodies see the tantrums as a threat. But after today, when you are listening to this IG Live, you will realize that tantrums are emotional outbursts that are actually normal for all humans, and because our kids don't have the skills to manage it, they end up externalizing their emotions through tantrums. So what you can do is to trick your brain to press the pause button. Literally stop talking, stop any actions, just look at them and breathe. Remember me, my face, telling you that if it's not an emergency, you don't have to yell at your kids. You don't have to punish or say words that you will regret. Okay, so this is what I want you to try. I will summarize it once more at the end after I answer your questions. So let's go into Q&A right now. I think that will be the exciting part. There's a very good question about what if you are running late and they are being difficult, not wearing shoes or lying on the floor. How many of you experience that every single morning when you are sending your kids to school? Now, if you are running late, okay, there are a few things that we can do. Okay, let's talk about what we'll do at the moment. At the moment, if you're already running late, your kids are not wearing their shoes, you can choose to do two things. You can choose to threaten, yell at them, and say, put on your shoes now. If not, I'm not going to give you ice cream, or I'm going to take away your screen time. What do the kids do? They end up throwing even more tantrums, right? They started to cry even more. But if you spend that same amount of time going down to your kids at their eye level and looking at them and connecting with them, telling them, you don't want to wear your shoes, am I right? You prefer to be at home, you don't want to go to school, am I right? Now the same duration, the same time that you take to connect, you stand a better chance of getting them to cooperate. Because when you start yelling, threatening, even punishing, spanking, right? You are bringing them into a state of emergency. So their bodies perceive you as the threat. And our kids clearly don't have that skills to learn how to regulate, to talk it out to you. So what will you choose? I think for me, I would rather manage my own tantrums first, go down and talk to them. Of course, we're running late. Yeah. And if you're going to spend the same amount of time, then why don't we just do something that will work, right? So you press the pause button. Now, we'll talk about what we are going to do in a moment, but let's think about what we can do before the kids are going to school. The day before is where the work should be done. So you are not going to effectively teach your kids or rationalize with them or correct what they say during these moments of dysregulation. It is again a brain science. When the children are overwhelmed, when we adults we are overwhelmed, they cannot access the prefrontal cortex to try to remember what they should do or even try to reason with you or rationalize what you say. I'll give you an example. When your kids are throwing a tantrum and you are triggered by mess or by back talking, your kids are being defiant, can you remember what I just shared with you today about how you need to press pause? Very difficult, right? So even as adults, if we find it so hard to do so, how are we going to expect our little ones to be able to remember or even listen to what you have to say when they are clearly overwhelmed by anxiety, frustration, and anger? So we want to be the informed parent. By the way, this is the first module of my course, From Yelling to Connecting, which is open right now, and I'm going to teach parents, how are you going to be the educated parent to understand how your child grows, develop, what's going on in their brain, so that you can just address their needs right away. You know the strategy to use, to say, what to say, and what to do to troubleshoot. Okay, so I don't know if I gave you like a quick fix, but if you're running late, teach the day before. Okay, prep the kids, they're going to school. You can even bring out the uniforms beforehand, the school shoes beforehand, or even wake up earlier. Get the kids to wake up earlier and buffer a little bit more time so that you are not so anxious during the morning runs. Okay, Little Adventurer asked this question: what if he hurts his little brother, disturbing his little brother's bedtime? Okay, so there are two parts. If he hurts his little brother, that is an emergency. This is a time where you're going to take your kids apart, pull the kids apart. Because as long as they hurt someone or they destroy any property, you have to come in to set the boundaries very clearly. So embody your authority as the parent. When your kids are out of control, you have to be in control. You know clearly this is a dangerous situation. Okay, hurting someone is a dangerous situation. Your kids running across the road, not holding your hands, is a dangerous situation, and you have every right to yell. You don't need to press the pause button then, because their safety might be compromised. Okay, so you have to stop the kids. Now, if they are disturbing the little brother at bedtime and it's not like some physical contact, no one's going to be hurt, that's where you can press the pause button and look at your kids. Alright, my relationship with my kids are more important. My kids, they're having a hard time. They cannot manage their impulses. Go down, go low, look at your kids the eye. You can just say what you see. So this is one of the strategy that I'll be sharing with you tomorrow. Go down and look at the child and say that you don't want to sleep, you want to play with your brother. Alright, so paraphrasing what your child say works as well. And these are one of the many strategies that you can try. Okay, let me see. Why is it that some kids do not throw tantrums and are so well behaved? Okay, so I've ever spoken to some parents and they tell me that my kids only behave well when they are in front of so and so, but when they're at home, they're not like that, right? How many of your kids are this way too? Now, we wouldn't know what happens behind closed doors. Like, the kids might be very well behaved in front of us, like your friends' kids, but maybe at home, they feel safe enough to then express themselves. So I think Tantrums is something that all humans experience, and it's actually very healthy for them to throw the tantrums. Maybe some of the kids are older. Maybe their parents have constantly been teaching them about emotions and finding appropriate ways to respond. I've had parents, in my course, their kids are like two-ish, and they can express themselves in sentences. I feel upset that you don't want to read another book to me. And I will tell the parents, celebrate it. Look at your child and say, thank you for telling me that you are upset. That's your first reaction. Because the more you emphasize on that response, the more your kids want to do it to get your attention. At the end of it, kids want to feel connected to us. They want to be with us. They want us to know that we are there for them. So they will do whatever it takes. Even acting out just to get your attention, any form of attention, it is still attention to our children. And only when you understand our kids need this connection, then you can reflect on your own actions. Are you meeting their need of giving them the attention, helping them feel secure, and not being a source of threat or a source of danger yourself? Okay? All right, let's see what other questions. My child whines when he doesn't want to do his work. I told him it irritates me and I asked him to stop doing and come back when he's ready. He usually continues. Sometimes I cannot take it and leave the room. Is it the correct way? Okay, so if you feel that it's boiling, you're boiling, your blood is boiling and you really cannot manage it anymore, don't just walk off. Tell your child, I need a break, I'll be back. So at least you model what you want your kids to do, because I'm sure, when your kids are having a hard time, you don't want them to just storm off, right? You want to be able to know what is your child doing, how is your child coping. Yeah, and so Hui Yan, thank you for pointing this out, because actually right now, I do want you guys to think about what triggers you. Take a moment to think about that, because if you know that morning, the morning rush is a trigger, you don't like to be late, punctuality is so important to you, then you want to make sure that you take action to kind of again, put in more time or prep yourself mentally. Okay, they are going to be late, they are going to play their toys, even though it's time to go to school. Press the pause button. Okay, we can do this. What can I do? Okay, so you need to come back tomorrow to know what to do. All right, I'll just answer a few more questions. My girl cries, clenches her fist and hits her thigh when I said no to her request for more snacks. What should I do? So if the child starts to hurt themselves, you have to stop the child, hold her hand. And even if she's struggling, you still have to hold it. Okay, you want to show your child that this is a boundary I'm drawing. You are not allowed to hurt yourself. You can be angry, you cannot hurt yourself. So hold your child's hand. And then the real teaching happens when the child is calm. Not during those moments. Okay, keep your sentences short. I won't let you hit. Hold your child's hand. Okay? So, I want you to... Okay, let me see. I think one more question here. What if my child tells me that he or she is upset about a problem that I cannot fix, which is out of my control? Okay, I need a little bit more details, but if it's a problem that you cannot fix, then we can help our kids to think about what is within their control. If it's not within their control, we just have to learn to, let it go or figure out a solution to it. So the problem solving will come in on Thursday. Okay, Thursday I will talk about the problem solving part. All right, so I'm going to summarize today's session. Somebody gave me a really good hashtag. It says, press the pause button. If you can type it in the comment, press the pause button to let me know this is something you are going to try out. That will be really, really helpful for you, because right now you're also rewiring your brain to tell yourself, hey, I can press the pause button. Okay, so understand that you do within what is within your control. So you cannot control your child from having those emotions, but you can control your response to their big emotions. And it's very important for us to be the calm parent. It is hard. Okay, I'm not going to tell you that, after one IG live and you can suddenly become a very calm parent, because I took 3 years. I took 3 years, and I don't expect you to do it over 30 minutes. Okay, it takes a lot of practice. That's one. It takes a lot of intentionality for you to remember, hey, I need to press the pause button. I just no need for me to react, really. Okay, and especially if your partner is watching this with you, tell your partner, this will be our code: pause. Press the pause button. Just, tell yourself there's no need for you to react. Okay, so if you are interested to think about what are our next few steps, then feel free to come back tomorrow. After you press pause, what are you going to do? And how are we going to guide our children to become emotionally resilient, manage their emotions well? So for those of you who have signed up for my course, From Yelling to Connecting, this is one of the strategies. There are a lot more. And for those of you who don't know, you can go to my website, ourlittleplaynest.com/FYTC, which is my course, and I'm opening to help you guys. So if there are any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be very happy to answer them, and I will be able to, I don't know, I'll just be on my DM. So if there's anything about this IG live that I don't answer your questions, or you have anything you're not sure about, feel free to reach out. Okay, so the link is also in my bio. I know many of you have already signed up and you even attend this live, so this is a really great start for you to then kick off this journey to start learning how to manage yourself so that you can manage your kids. A lot of parents think that I need to control my kids, but until what age? Because our kids are going to grow up and they are eventually going to figure things out on their own. They're going to walk out of the house, they're going to say no to you, they're going to have full control over what they want, and by then you are not able to control them anymore. The teenage years are going to be really, really hard if we don't lay the foundation now. Okay, so yeah, again, let me know after this IG live. Drop me a DM that you have tried it and you are sharing your progress with me. I'll chat with you again tomorrow, same time. Will you be here tomorrow? Let me know. Okay, all right, goodbye.